Alright, so now I will go ahead and refine this. I will go ahead and, keep having my reference up because, I'm going to be putting some armor in. I want to know what parts of the armor that I want to add in. So if you're interested in, armor and the like, this is a good part to look through. So when you want to, look at something that's a bit more complex than what you usually draw, you have to look for reference. So I look at reference that is easy to construct, what parts of the armor are there. You have the shoulder pads, then you have like the armor for the arms and the chest plates and everything. Whoa. Weird. Sorry, oops. There. Other inside details and the like. So if you're unsure about something, always look for reference and do some studies if you want. So I'm going to go ahead and do some armor on him. So I'm going to put this to the side here. So I like the idea of those chest plates, so I'm going to be drawing on top of his body. But first I'm going to erase a lot of his body just so I don't get distracted, but the base is still there. So I'm just going to be doing that as usual. So here we have, his collar. There's like a collar around the chest plate and everything where it starts. And then here we have his shoulder pads, which can range from different shapes, but it's usually across the pectoralis. And then it kind of stretches over on top. There's even a flap, but I think I'll make this into fur instead because he's kind of royal, so I want to add that. So I'm adding some fur over his cuff or his shoulder pad. And I want to also add a little bit of shape language to this, so I'm going to add a little bit of nice grooves in here. And then there we have the shoulder pad on top. So I always like to add reference or just make outfits that are relatively realistic rather than make it generic. So what I mean by generic is kind of just like, oh yeah, you have your simple shape of armor. For instance, like your classic, classic video game knight. I mean, yeah, some of these designs are really good. Like for instance, Fire Emblem is really good. Those designs are really top notch, I believe. However, there's some, in animes where it's just like, yeah, they kind of just slap the knight, like a basic kind of RPG knight design in there. And sometimes it's not the most interesting to look at. So I like to kind of use real life references to, understand what I'm doing. So here I have a shoulder pad. And some of these can be kind of plated. I'm looking at this one right here. And it has like a bit of a ribbed look, so I'm going to go ahead and use some of that. And by the way, reference is not copying. Reference is knowing and understanding what you want to draw. So when there are people who say, oh, if you use reference, that's a bad thing, it's not a bad thing. It's one of the most fundamental things ever. In a way, when it comes to artists, we kind of steal, we steal ideas and we make it our own. That's kind of what really an artist is. You just have to not show, you just have to show, creativity into it. So, and not only that, but art is, I'm going to go a little bit philosophical here, but a lot of time, art is just, it's not really about reinventing the wheel. It's about just doing what, you communicate best with. So sometimes, even, a lot of designers who, design suits and stuff, they always have a real life reference for it. And it's, the more you try to deviate and try to make everything, interesting for the sake of it being interesting, it starts looking wacky and out of just not really realistic. So you want to make sure that your design is interesting and also grounded in your design, because if you lose people, then people won't believe your design anymore. So you can't just add like, oh, I'm gonna make this super special. This character can't be categorized because this character has like a leopard patterned arm here and a zebra patterned leg over there. You can't do that, because you're just at this point just trying to make your character as unique as possible, to the point where it doesn't make sense anymore. So you have to make sure that it relates in the real world with something. So that's just a little bit of a digress, but anyways. So the shoulder pad also has a floating quality to it, so it kind of floats on top. And I actually don't really like these fins here because they kind of look a little bit like fish. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to add a little bit of a detail here. So I'm using this angle as reference as well, because I feel like this is a good angle to work with, especially for this pose. And there's a flap that kind of connects. I don't want to show this part here because I want the fur to show more. So here we have the pad that's kind of floating a little bit, and then over on top, make sure that your clothes don't exactly stick to the body, of course. So you want to make sure that this is nice and overlapping over the body. So here's a little pattern here that kind of looks like a little V shape. That kind of gives it that royal look. Here's a little clasp, show where it connects. If you want, you can even add some nice emblems around here, just to kind of give it some nice flair. Here we have an elbow shaped armor. This kind of covers the elbow, make sure that the arm turns. It's like a joint. So I'm going to flare this shape out a little bit. Here it can be another emblem, kind of sneak in a little bit of symbolism. So if you want to show that this person is very royal, add, symbols of his kingdom around. And of course, in moderate places, not just everywhere, not plastered everywhere, but enough that, they show that this is the royal king or the crown prince or whatever. So here I'm adding some ribbed areas here. And the armor is trying to make him look a bit bigger. So rather than just, skinny frame underneath or just a muscular frame underneath, I want to add some armor to that. So here's the other side. I'm overlapping over my shapes and make sure that this is, connected with bolts and the like. And don't worry if you can't draw over the grid line here. You can just draw over it if you want. So make sure that this is hovering over the elbow. And here's the rest of the armor on top. So there's kind of like, there's a shoulder pad, and then there's like there's like tiles of the armor underneath so that it's easy to move, so you can bend your arms back and forth. And then there's also the under armor of the arm, if that made sense, that covers the underside of it. And then we have the gauntlet. So let me go find a nice reference of that. I like these kind of gloves here, so I'm going to use a little bit of that. So I'm going to make it a little bit sharp. So the gauntlet has like little bits of ridges underneath, just show that, this can bend still. So that's why they kind of tile it on top of each other. So once again, another reason it puts an emblem. So notice how the armor is kind of beefing up this character more. So here we have the gauntlet that has a knuckle area here. Like there's kind of like a knuckle pad that protects the front of the arm. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. Make sure it wraps around the arm like a cylinder. And of course, you want to draw the ribbed areas here, kind of close to the joints. If you want to add some decorative feel, then you can add some, angular motions and some, metallic detail, but don't overdo it. So I'm looking at this one here and just seeing how this glove is being made. It's a little bit ornamental, but that's fine. But basically the key components are, knuckle armor. That kind of just reinforces the hand essence of it. And then we have the finger armor, which is kind of like ribbed as well, because it has to bend, right? So here I have the knuckle. And this is just drawn roughly because I don't want to do too detailed at this point. And then here we have the fingers, which will be kind of ribbed. So this is so far what we have. Looking pretty good. Then here we have let's give him a belt. Just to kind of show that once more of his royal status. And here we have the end of his armor, which is called sort of like a little plate on top. Which is also kind of ribbed again, because it's metallic. And it needs to move around, so you still want to add those components in. So always look at your reference while you're doing this. I'm here looking back and forth at my reference to make sure that this looks like armor and not just, make-believe armor. Here we have the leg armor as well, which kind of encompasses over the thighs. And then this empty spot here is where the pants are, basically. And then we have some nice little patterns as well. Basically, this is how you just draw a very, very rough sketch of armor. Now let's go ahead and add in... Let's add in some hair, shall we? But first, let's kind of give him a nice kingly type of helmet here. Let's see. Let me search up some images here. So king armor helmet. That could be as simple as that when you do a search. Well, I don't want to make it look too intense. This looks kind of cool. It has a nice, kind of like a nice lion shape to this. So I kind of like that. But I don't think I will add it. I think I'll just add in his hair, which will be a little bit spiky. Unless I change my mind again. Let's see. Yeah, I think I'll make his hair a little bit spiky. So kind of messy, kind of going in one direction here. Maybe have a little bit of a buzz here. because it's spiky hair, you don't want to, make it too dense inside the inside this area here, because if you make it too dense, it'll look really, really weird. And let's add a crown just to show his status. Let's make it really, really simple, and usually when it comes to simple crowns, it's usually quite, the simpler it is, the more masculine it looks, because the more delicate it looks, the more, basically the simpler it looks, the more straight to the point, more forward it looks. However, the more delicate it looks, more feminine, so you want to make sure that it doesn't look too delicate. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and... I don't really like that very much. If anything, I'd rather just have him have a helmet. I think I'll just go ahead and just finish off with his hair first, because I feel like that is a good ending to that. So here we have our basic sketch. That's what it looks like, full decked out armor. And let's not forget his cape, so let's add his cape. And I'll add detail in the sword later. I'm kind of covering the sword a little bit here because I want to make sure that this cape kind of flows, and it's not just towards the back, but it's also flowing to the front. So I like that kind of dynamic look. I wonder if I should just add a band. Maybe something like that for now. Maybe a small edge and then a larger one, a small one, and then it kind of goes back. It's just space. Alright, so that's it for this video. Let me know what you guys think. This is our rough sketch, and then we will get to the lining process. I'll see you guys in the next one.